everyone, welcome to my son's future nursery. He will be here in 2.5 months. No name picked out yet, except the moniker Frank the Tank. Anyway, as I get bigger here, I'm trying to pull back on the construction projects and keep it simple. One thing I did do though, and I'll show you, turn this around, is frame out his window with some new Craftsman window trim, and I'll include the link for that tutorial below. Pretty much every window in my house I start swapping out to Craftsman trim from builder grade because it just looks so much better. It makes the window look bigger. We rehang the curtains higher, and that's where I'm at today. We are going to hang, drum roll please, lovely Ikea Matilda curtains! Alright, so let's get to the fun part. Ikea curtains. They're freaking awesome. I have them in a lot of rooms in my house because they're so cheap. These were $35. $35! If you had custom curtains ordered, you'd spend probably $50 to $100 and plus, depending on the size of the window, which is great. But they do need a little TLC. When they come out of the package, they're a hot mess. They're all wrinkled. They're way too long, which is great because you can tailor them to the size of your window and your ceiling, but they're going to need a little TLC. Once you get them hemmed and ready to go, you put them on the curtain and you can hem them right on the curtain. The stitching doesn't have to be complicated, and you can get it done in about 30, 40 minutes, maybe an hour, depending on your skill level. I'll show you how to do it. So your first step after getting those unruly curtains out of the package is to iron them, and what I do is give it a generous spray of water and some kind of Scotch Guard. I used this Niagara Original Hold, and it has spray starch in it. I'll include the information below. Just give it a nice generous spray and smooth it over with your iron. This type of curtain specifically was 100% cotton, so I wasn't too worried about it, but for some of the other curtains, just do a small test area in a corner just to make sure it won't ruin your fabric. And if nothing else, you can always put a wet towel over your fabric and then do the iron over the top of the wet towel just to keep the heat at a lower setting. Once your curtains are hung and ironed, they are ready to be pinned. This process is a little tedious. It's a lot of getting down on the floor, as you will see. And I found it easier to pin them with the curtains completely open. You really just want to get down and pin it up to the proper length so that you can go ahead and iron them and start stitching. So here's my first panel all pinned and ready to be ironed so that I get a nice pressed bottom, and it should just be kissing the floor unless you want a more pulled look. And without taking your curtains off the rod, go ahead and pull up your ironing board in your iron and make a nice crease at the bottom. Use your water. You probably don't need the Scotch Guard again at this point. Just get a nice crease at the bottom. You may have to adjust some pins to make everything nice and smooth, and just let it, once you're done, let it fall back to the ground and see how it hangs. So here's what it looks like after my first go. It's pooling a little bit too much for my liking, so I readjust the pins. This is after the second go around with pinning, and I was much happier with this look. So I was ready at this point to start sewing in place. So once you're happy with the final look, go ahead and take a needle and thread, and you're going to want to put a knot in one end of your thread. At this point, I reconsider my career choices and think maybe hand modeling should have been the way to go. So put one knot, and then you can also form a double knot if you like, just to make it nice and strong. Pull it through. Try not to get it tangled. There's my first knot, and then I go ahead and make a second knot. There we go. You're going to start by securing your thread right on the very end of your curtain, and you'll want to make a knot, but you'll see one end is going to be that knotted end. Just kind of make a secured knot, and then you can cut off the excess with some scissors. I believe this is called a base stitch, but I'm no sewing expert by any means, so, you know, take it with a grain of salt. But basically, you're going to be doing very minimal stitching on the back. You're going to leave a large gap in between each stitch, and it's more or less to hold the curtain in place where you have it pinned. And I'll show you a different angle of how I accomplish this stitch in just a minute. When I'm on the back side of the curtains, but the entire time I'm leaving the curtains on the rod so that nothing moves and everything exactly the way I want it. So this is the same stitch, just from the back side. And here's the same process from another very flattering angle.
Mommy on the floor.
Yep, Mommy's on the floor. Once your stitches are done, you're going to want to take out all your pins, and here's how it looks after just one panel hemmed versus the original. Quite long. And here's the finished product. If you like this video, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe.